You do.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Achieve Results Now podcast. This is Mark Cardone.
And Theron Feidt.
Oh, we have a great podcast for people who want to start making progress today. Oh, boy.
Yeah, I agree. You know, we've talked about goals a lot. Our title is Achieve Results Now. So it really is about action, but more specifically about results.
Yeah.
And you know, isn't that what you want? Like if you run a business, what do you want?
Yeah. And this podcast specifically, there's so many people I talk to, and if you've ever been in this position, this is great. I have so many things I want to do, but I don't really know where to start. Right.
Yeah.
People have, when you think about achievers, right? And if you're listening to this and you're an achiever, I guarantee you don't have just one thing that you want to do. Right.
Yeah.
Like, even if the one thing is world domination, right? There's 400 little things in there that you have to do to get there. Right.
Yeah.
And it can be overwhelming. And, it can be tough to start making progress on a big goal.
I know. I feel like this sometimes, and I feel like, wow, there's so much to do. Monday sometimes feels like that. And, I think it's not, this idea is not lost on even people that have experience.
Yeah.
But especially someone that doesn't have experience, they just feel overwhelmed. They feel like, hey, what the heck do I do? How do I start? What do I start with first?
Yeah. Well, and the good news for people is that there's no light at the end of the tunnel. Like the more successful you get and the more you achieve, like the more you want to achieve, right? Because you kind of taste those victories and you want more victories, so you keep going. True achievement, there's no end game. You just keep the principle of the principle of Kaizen, right? It's I'm just continually improving and reinventing myself. So so that's the good news, is if you feel overwhelmed now, you're going to feel overwhelmed forever, and that's okay. So we're going to talk about how to take that, right? Kind of harness it, hone it, and start turning it into action and progress.
And what we're calling this is the 10-to-1 principle. That's what we're calling it.
Yeah.
And so we're going to discuss what exactly that means. And in short, if you have 10 priorities, 10 goals, 10 things that you really want to get done, obviously the overwhelm is going to be there. Well, that in itself is worse than having no goals at all. Right? Because what's going to happen is, what do I focus on? 10 things, and maybe it's 8, maybe it's 7. The whole idea is, if you have too many things that you're trying to get done and try to focus on, you probably won't do anything, or if you do, it's going to not be very good.
And so when I talk to business owners, one of the things I say is one of the best things you can do when you start a business is customer identification, right? Like, who is my main customer that I'm chasing? Now, when I say that, people go, well, I want to serve everybody. I want to be fair. I want to go to every, but that's totally okay, right? But if you focus, right, your life's going to be a lot easier, because you're going to have one person that you're marketing to, one type of person that you're doing this for, and then the other people will kind of swing in and they'll get in there. But the quote I use is, and I don't remember where I heard this, but I say, boiling the ocean is expensive and takes a really long time, but making a pot of coffee is really simple, right? And it's cheap. So the more focus you can put on something, and the more you can kind of cut away all the stuff that's not necessary, the quicker you're going to get things done, and the easier it's going to be.
Yeah. And people are going to ask, well, what the heck, how do I pick the one thing out of the 10 and all of that? And we're going to talk about that for sure. Because I have a very simple idea, because what I hear often too is, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I don't know what to do first. I don't know what's the most important thing. I don't know why, what is it that I can do to make progress? I just feel stuck. All of those things. So really, step number 1 is pick something. And it almost doesn't matter what it is. So if you have 10 things that you want to get done, just pick something and then start working on that. And what's going to happen is, you're going to create momentum, and you're going to understand that, okay, maybe that wasn't something that I wanted to pick. So you can quickly choose something else. Right?
Yeah.
Or you can keep going on that path and make progress.
And I think it's really interesting because people will say, well, I don't want to, focus on this one thing because then what about all these other things that I want to do? But they've had the same 10 goals for 20 years, and they haven't made a lot of progress because it's so hard for them to focus because they haven't focused on anything. They're trying to do it all, so focusing on the one I think is super helpful.
Yeah, you need to be focused. You need to have a point of singularity that you're going for. That idea, what that's going to do is that's going to bring about other things that are going to get attracted to that. And you'll notice when you focus on a goal, especially something specific that's important, a lot of the other goals kind of fall into place. A lot of the other goals, sometimes it feels almost like they magically improve, they magically get better. And, sometimes, like I said, you may need to adjust your focus. But the big thing is you took action. You got started. I mean, that's the thing that happens is those 10 goals, why it's worse to have 10 things versus, and no goals is because nothing happens, right? You don't know what to do. So you procrastinate and you just get stuck and nothing happens.
Yeah. And I mean, and it's funny because, if people say, well, which one do I start with? I tell everybody, you have to start with the ones that are priorities for you, but I tell everybody start with health, right? Like, because when you have health, you have more energy, you have more, you can do more if you're healthy than you can if you're not. Plus, I mean, if you're not healthy, none of the rest of it matters, Don't forget relationships. Like relationships are a great, I feel like people tend to go right to money. A lot of times, like they tend to go right to, I want to make more money because but in reality, like more energy and better relationships, a lot of times leads to goals have buddies, right? Leads to more money. So,
yeah. So the first one is you got to pick something, aim at it. And then the next one is, so now once you do that, now you have to prioritize. So you have to prioritize and organize. So what that means is, when you're focusing on something, what are the steps in that? So just because you're focused on that one thing doesn't mean there's only one step. Oftentimes there's multiple steps to get that goal. So let's prioritize things. Let's get things focused so that way you can start making progress. Because once you start seeing progress, like I said earlier, the motivation happens, the momentum happens, and things start to happen. And once things start to happen, then now you got the ball rolling. Now you can really make some progress.
Yeah, and I mean, I think prioritizing is a huge part of it because really any goal that you start to focus on, when you focus on a goal and you start to brainstorm, well, geez, like what can I do to get this done, right? And you're going to have a list of 400 actions, or 20 actions, or whatever it is. Stop focusing on all the things you can do and just focus on the one thing you should do. I mean, pick that one thing and then organize it right into your schedule. Put it somewhere where you're sure it's going to get done. Because I think that's one of the big things people do is they pick a goal, they make their list, and then what do? They feel better because they picked a goal and made a list.
Right.
And then they get into other stuff. So, I think organizing, is important because if you're not organized and you just kind of let the day take you, if you're not planning ahead, you're never going to work it in.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And you just need to get started. That's the big thing. You just need to get started.
Like right now?
Right now.
Like if I want to achieve results, I should just now. Start now. Not later.
You got it.
Don't start tomorrow. Achieve results. Can you imagine if we named our podcast Achieve Results Tomorrow or Achieve Results Monday?
Yeah.
Or start, that's awesome.
So, and the last one is, well, I'll let you say, because I like the term.
So the last one is don't clean your desk. Okay, because this is one of, and I see this so often, especially with salespeople. We have these things we have to do before we start. We all have them, and they're rituals and routines, and and I say don't clean your desk because in sales, I remember this was always like, okay, well, I'm going to make phone calls, but first I want to make sure my desk is organized. Right.
Yeah.
And
for a phone call.
Right. And
it's
they can't
like wearing a mask. It's like wearing a mask on a video chat.
Well, and that's the thing. This was before Zoom. So like people on the phone couldn't see your desk, but I feel more organized so I can do a better job.
Yeah.
But then by the time you're done cleaning your desk, well, it's lunch. It's almost lunchtime. So I'll do my calls after lunch.
Right.
And then, you get caught up. So this is like, don't clean your desk. Don't wait for your business cards before you start marketing your business. Don't stay away from that low-hanging garbage that you're doing, because subconsciously you're afraid to do the thing you need to do.
Yeah. And I just want to be clear. We're not saying don't ever clean your desk, because we just said get organized earlier, right?
Correct.
The concept is, what's the priority? Like you said, if you're going to make phone calls, who the heck cares what your desk looks like? You're making phone calls. Nobody's going to see it. Because like you said, you're using that as an excuse. You're taking action on an area that doesn't matter. One of the phrases I use in here with the instructors and remind them and tell them to ask is, am I doing the most important thing right now? That simple phrase is, yes, cleaning the desk is important. You have people coming in, you're having a meeting. You don't want a messy desk, especially if you're selling something. It's one thing if you're just having a meeting with your coworkers, that's different. But if you're trying to sell something and you want to present, if your desk is messy, what are they going to think about your business?
Yeah.
Right. However, but what it's about, so cleaning your desk is important, but what's the timing of it? That's what you have to be careful of.
You don't need to iron your workout shirts before you go running. You know what I mean? Like if you're oh, I don't want to go to the gym because like my shirt's wrinkly, so I want to make sure it's ironed first. And then by the time you're done ironing, and I know people connect with this because we all do it, right? Like we all go, oh well, I'm gonna do the thing that's super, like I got this thing that's super important and I'm gonna do it, but before I do it, I just need to do this little thing. Right. Like even like, oh, I got to go grab a cup of coffee first. Right. And then you go get a cup of coffee and then you get distracted and then you never get to the thing. So stop, cleaning your desk before you make the phone calls. Just do the whatever you prioritize and organize now. Just do it.
Right.
Just, pretend you're sick for an hour and you can't do something that you were supposed to do, and tell everyone, hey, I can't do that right now. I have to do this.
Yep.
Progress will be and confidence will go up. Progress will increase, confidence will go up.
For sure. Absolutely. All right. Let's review. So this is our 10 to 1 principle.
10 to 1.
That's what we're calling. That's what we're calling this. So number 1 is aim at something, pick something, singular point, get focused. So instead of the 10 things, just pick one of the 10 and make it happen.
That's right. Number 2, organize and prioritize, or prioritize and organize, whichever order you like.
Yeah, sure.
But make your priorities, pick the things that are going to make the biggest difference, and then organize them into your day. Make sure you plan ahead so they can get done.
Absolutely. And then the last one is don't clean your desk. So in other words, don't do the things that aren't important at the time. Make sure that you get into action. You don't procrastinate by keeping yourself busy and doing busy work, but you get right to the task. So that way you can start making progress towards it.
And while you're here, be sure to subscribe to the Achieve Results Now podcast so you don't miss an episode. Thank you for listening, everybody.
Thanks.